Season's greetings, fellow DevHeads. It's ya boy coming at you again with another superspective update just before we end off the year and transition into what would be year number 2 of me making this project, this documentary. It's been a long time since I last had the chance to update any of you guys, so I figured before the year is out, I just let you all know that everything is going smoothly. So let's do a bit of a deep dive here, because we're closing in not only on the end of the year, but we're closing in on a full year of me making the Devin Townsend Superspective. It's gonna be fully a year, and I think about 3 weeks. It's like the 2nd or 3rd week of January, so we're really getting close to that. And I figured, you know, we're in the last week of December here, second last week maybe, if you count next week as being part of December, before the end of 2025, and I think now would just be a good time to talk about things that have been going on. So the project itself has been going fantastic. As of right now, I am working on the Ziltoid section, physically putting it together. So the last time we talked, I believe I was just starting that, and I think I maybe had 1 or 2 sections done. If you're following my Instagram, you'll know that at the end of every section, I take a picture of the timeline that I made for that section and I post it on my story. If you haven't done that, then now I can let you know that I'm almost at the halfway point of finishing the Devin Townsend Superspective, which is crazy. This first half especially is the longest half, mainly because of the podcast, the Devin Townsend podcast. I animate DevHead clips for it. We're going to go today and we're going to have a look at all of the major sections, all of the major aspects of this project that I've been working on for the past couple of months now, and including all the stuff that I've already finished for this project, like the script, my note-taking page, so that you guys can all get a really good idea on just how much work we're dealing with, what we got on our belt, and what you can expect once this project is actually finished. We're just going to kind of go through the past year. What has 2025 done to me as the guy creating this project? So step 1 is the Devin Townsend Superspective notes. This is where it began. This is where the entire thing started. Months before I even announced that it was going to be a thing, this is where it started. I haven't looked at this page specifically in a while. 65 pages. Let's go back to the top. The Devin Townsend Superspective notes is 65 pages, and you can see at the bottom there, it's also 23,328 words. This is just notes. It's point form. It's just grouping stuff together. I put this in like a chronological order. It starts with his early life, and each section, you'll notice the next header after early life is then noisescapes. So everything here in this little section of early life is after looking at as many interviews, listening to the podcast, looking at all these different music articles, and just going through everything that I could find. This pretty much summarizes his early life. Up until noisescapes, this is the information. It's somewhat in order, but what you'll notice, which is really important here going throughout this whole project, even in the final itself, you'll notice this. There's going to be numbers associated with stuff. So at the very first bullet point, at around the age of 5, he would find an interest in bugs, 61. So 61 isn't just a random number, it means something. 61, and I'm going to jump to another Word document I have open here called the DTSS video reference clip storage thingy, basically is a point form works cited with links, with a brief description on everything. So this one, significantly shorter because, like I said, it's just bullet points, but you'll notice the bullet points are numbered here. And so if we think 61, what is 61? 61 is overexposed and underdeveloped book. There's a lot about his early life in this book, and I used that information to help expand upon my knowledge of Devin Townsend. It's me covering my own ass to prove to you that I didn't make this stuff up. I'm not trying to speculate on his life or anything like that. This comes from somewhere. And as we get into stuff that everybody, about his actual music career, you might wonder, oh, he's using a video in the project. I want to watch the whole video. Maybe it's a live performance. I want to watch that live performance. Where can I find it? Well, it'll be in this document. So when the project itself comes out, I'm going to have, I guess, like a Dropbox. I haven't really thought about it this far. I'm going to assume I'm going to use a Dropbox. You can go to the Dropbox, and these files are going to be here, fully completed. I'm still adding to the list as I create the project because I'm putting in new videos and pictures and stuff like that. This list is only going to get longer and longer and longer, but it's going to have a number associated with it. It's not going to be difficult to navigate. You just find the number, and then you can have an associated YouTube video or location, source, anything. And you can, watch what you're entertained by. Watch the things that you want to. So the notes I probably won't include in the final project, but this is just an idea of where it started. Here's some Noisescape stuff. After Noisescapes, we go to Vi. Here's all the information about Vi. Then the Wild Hearts after. Short section. Not a lot happened for Wild Hearts. Punky Brewster after that. Here's Strapping Young Lad as a whole. Just relative band-related Strapping Young Lad stuff that really couldn't fit in with an album. Heavy is a Really Heavy Thing comes after that. And then, of course, City. And then we go into Ocean Machine, I'm assuming. Yes. And so on and so forth. If we go all the way down to the bottom, last section is good quotes. Good quotes that I can add into the project at any point where it is relevant. So fundamentally, humanity is hilarious. And he talks about that. Creative process involves finding out what it isn't to know what it is. I remember that being from the City, the Ocean Machine one. The Ocean Machine podcast. And then anything just important stuff. There's a timestamp associated with this one, so I don't have to look for that specific quote when it comes to it. And the section immediately before that is The Moth, which is right now. Stuff that happened right now. So this 65-page document includes pretty much more than everything, because I'm not going to use every single bullet point in the final project, really just the most important stuff. And then from this note document, I developed a script, and that is stage 2. Stage 2 is this script here. I'm going to go right to the top. Devin Townsend Superspective 2025 initial draft. Soon enough, this is going to be 2025/2026. I have obviously edited this script over and over and over again as I go through the project, tweaking little details, rechanging pacing and stuff like that. But this is the script. And so here is really the first spoiler for the final project that I can give you. I'm not going to go into extreme detail about this script because I don't want to spoil all the information for you. But the script itself is 85 pages. It's currently 37,386 words, which would be a different word count than what I would have stated previously because, like I said, I'm doing lots of editing here and changing word flow and stuff like that. But if you want to take a moment, this is technically the intro. This is the first words you're going to hear when the project itself starts, when you go to listen to it. There's also stuff in brackets here for direction, almost like it's a stage play to help me physically put it together. This script obviously came well before I started physically putting the project together. So I wanted to give myself some direction here. Fade to black, music fades away. There's a break aside here, asides, the word aside here basically means that it's stepping away from the project for a moment for me to discuss directly with you what this is going to be about. Look at this first sentence. Now, before we get into this, right, it's the intro. It's an aside. I'm taking you aside for a moment, and then we get into section 0, which is the preface before we actually start the project itself. And here's some information, and you'll notice anything in the square brackets is direction for me. And then we get to something like this. This is a very unique kind of direction that I'm giving myself here. Show clip 2 from 1 minute 7 seconds to 1:16, and then from 1 minute 24 to 1:57. So obviously this Devin Townsend Superspective is not just me talking the whole time. I'm mixing this up with information directly from you're seeing source material on your screen. Clip 2 And if I go back to my reference list, clip 2 again is from the overexposed and underdeveloped video reacting to pages from, you can look at this link. And for specifically that amount of time, the timestamps are there. And so you'll notice as we go through the project, it's mixed, pretty 50-50 between me talking and Devin talking. So in the video that I had posted previously, where I talked about the Devin Townsend Super Perspective needs your help, and I talked about the script being finished and how the word count that I had provided you was just me talking, not anything else that I provide, which could easily double or triple the word count. Over the course of 2 documents, that is the size of the Devin Townsend Super Perspective. Again, just what I am speaking, not what Devin is saying. There are clips in there that range from 30 seconds to maybe 5 minutes long, depending on how much important information is on them. That could easily make that script 2 to 3 times as long, depending on how many words Devin says in each of those clips. So it's going to be long. This is what I mean. The word count, of course, including these little directional bits. These are technically words contributing to the word count here, but that really just includes what I'm saying, right? Devin could say 100 words in any one of these clips, and it's not accounted for here. And this is already 85 pages. So 85 pages of just me talking, I don't know how well I could drive home the idea of just how long this is going to be, how big of an undertaking it is. I will get into in a moment what I've completed so far and how long that is. Just to put it into perspective of how long the whole thing is going to be, we get closer and closer to an accurate number in terms of hours or anything like that. And this is what our script looks like. We then enter section 2, which is Vian Wildhearts. It goes for a couple pages, same thing, paragraphs of me talking, interdispersed between clips that are relevant to the time that continue the story on. I kind of, in partnership to all of these clips, tell this story. And you'll notice at the very end of a section, most of them will end with this album themes and analysis section. So that is a completely different Word document. We don't need to talk about that because that's just my own personal opinions and feelings. But every section is going to end with me taking the time to talk about the album. How does the music itself from the album connect to the story that I just told of that album being created? So how do the two reflect each other? Get into Punky Brewster, Heavy is a really heavy thing. Punky Brewster and Heavy is a really heavy thing. And then we go all the way down. And then there's the end, final thoughts. And that itself is a different Word document because I just wanted a clean slate to help my brain process. So after the script was done, that was about June or July, I believe, when I released the Devin Townsend Super Perspective Needs Your Help. It was at that point that I transitioned over from writing the script to talking to you guys, sitting down and hosting interviews or receiving emails from people, getting their stories about how Devin and his music has influenced them. And then shortly after that, I took about a 2-week break and then physically started putting the project together. That was, and still is, some of the most fun that I've had just doing something, just putting something together, because now finally the vision that I had for this was starting to come together, and I was making an active effort to try and match physical product to something that was and has been for 6 months up until that point. Now it's been 12 months into reality. It's now real. It's now something I can hold tangibly. Technically, I can hold it tangibly like this. This is my external drive that currently holds as much of the project that I finished so far, or at least a copy of it. So in case this guy shits the brick, I at least have a copy of it, that it's not going to set me back months of work. So with that in mind, I started to physically put the project together. 2 major aspects of this next step. There is the DevHead clips, the animated DevHead character that I've mentioned before, Flacco Weasel, notable Devin Townsend audience member, fan, animated for me. They drew the head and the shoulders up. You've seen it already. It has been extremely rewarding. Switching over to my editing software here, DaVinci Resolve, I get to now talk to you a little bit about DevHead and how I go about making these clips. Right here, I have an audio clip. It's from a podcast. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this.
In line with the analysis that has clearly been a part of this process.
This is from the Ziltoid episode of the Devin Townsend podcast. And it's particularly this clip here at the top. If you look at the top of the editing software, clip 12, so the 12th reference in my reference list, it's the Ziltoid podcast if you're unfamiliar, and specifically these two timestamps. I decided to combine this audio clip together into one animation. Felt it was a little more easy to just do as one as opposed to two. I haven't done any editing for this one yet, but I will. Sometimes I like to trim the fat, reduce the time as much as possible. Here you'll notice this guy right here, it's currently a 3-minute and 9-second long clip. 3 minutes of editing is a pain in the ass. After having done probably about 100 of these, I would like to reduce this as much as possible, trim out as much fat from this as possible to make this maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, somewhere in the 1 minute ballpark. That tends to be where I like to sit before my ADHD takes over and I can't focus on animating anymore. I'm just going to switch over to a different project that I have. I'm going to open a recent one. In fact, I'm going to open the one that I just finished before I started recording. So now you recognize, here's DevHead on a green screen. This looks a lot more complicated, but I can assure you it's not. It's just painstaking and very tedious. So here we have a single audio channel, again, just like we had previously, but now we've got 4 different video channels with 4 different things going on. The very first one at the very back, obviously, is the green screen, because when I render this stuff out, I want to make sure that Devin is isolated. I can put him over any background that I want. Unfortunately, when you render with DaVinci Resolve on a black background, it bakes that black background into the picture. So if I wanted to remove said black background, it would remove the entire color. So that would include Devin's glasses, his pupils, his eyebrows, the detailing of his sweater. All of that would disappear, would all become see-through, and it wouldn't look very good. So instead, I just kind of brute force it and put a green screen there, a green screen picture that I downloaded off of Google. And that kind of fixes that problem. I can remove the green color instead of the black color, and Devin stays his full bald self. Video 2 might be a little difficult for me to explain. The picture is called devinear.png. It's just his ear. I can slide it around so that you can see. It's just his ear. It's just his second ear. Flacco forgot to draw an ear on the back of him, so she had to do that separately and send that to me separately. So every time I do a DevHead clip, I just add that ear on, almost like a stamp of approval that it's finished. So that's the end of that one. Video 3 and video 4 are the actual brunt of the work here. So video 3 is Devin's head. If I hide everything else, this is what layer 3 is. It's just his head. But not just his head, it's mainly his eyes, because he has to blink. See, like that.
Put my hair on Zil.
He blinks to the side. Sometimes he blinks and stays to the side. Sometimes he blinks at the front. Sometimes he blinks and it stays at the front. So that's usually my first pass over this animation. Once I've trimmed the fat off of all the clips and I'm satisfied, you'll notice this one's only 1 minute and 21 seconds. I'll start by going over it with just his eyes. And I think about the clip itself. When does he blink? When would it be appropriate for him to blink? When should he look to the left? Or, yeah, well, I mean, technically he's looking to the right, but from our perspective, he's looking to the left. When does he look to the left? When does he look back to the front? How do I make it look kind of organic and natural? And that usually takes me like, I don't know, like a minute or two just to go over the whole clip to make it look normal. He's blinking at appropriate times when humans would blink, because I'm a human and I know when people humanly normally blink or whatever. And then when that's done, I start the DevHead clip where 99% of the work is, which is his mouth. As I said before, Flacco has animated, or drawn, I guess I could say, all of these different mouth shapes. And here in my little, I'll get rid of the inspector because I don't need that. Let's drag this over. Here's all the mouth shapes that Flacco has drawn, and I've given them the titles of what I believe the mouth sounds would be. What are they called? the phoneme chart or something like that. So we have A, E, F, F2. That's like a more exaggerated F. I kind of roll into that mouth shape by using both of them at the same time. I'll do that quite a bit, actually. SH acts as multiple different mouth shapes. I've kind of learned that I can use, the L, for example. I can also use that as a TH sound. If it goes th, I can go th like that, like you would with the L mouth shape. O, oo, basically, if you've ever been a human before, you've used these words. And I just go frame by frame and line up these mouth shapes to match with the audio file, right? So I'll play a little bit for you here.
And then I thought, well, what would happen if I put my hair on Ziltoid?
And you can see, if you pay attention to this top row of video clips here, where I've stretched out some of them to be more than a single frame long, that this is a very manual and painstaking process. This goes for a full minute and a half, and a minute usually takes me about an hour if I can focus good enough, which a lot of the times I can't, because it's tedious and boring and my brain does not like to focus for long periods of time. So animating a DevHead clip takes me a while. There's obviously likely to be multiple of them. I'll pull multiple audio clips from the podcast for a single section because he talks a lot about that album. It's where a lot of the information comes from. But I just didn't want audience members to sit and look at nothing when a podcast clip was playing. So I wanted to give them something. So I reached out to Flacco. I already knew she was an animator, obviously, and I wanted her to animate a Devin character like this, DevHead, as I refer to him as, so that people had something to look at whenever this was going on. And of course, because he's off to the side here, I have room to show other things as well on the left side of the screen so that it's even more engaging and not boring at any point. So this is just one example of a DevHead voice crack. Like I said, I've animated probably about 100 of these by now. And for any of you who are aware, the last, not counting the Patreon, which we will get to, the podcasts end at Ghost. There was no Epicloud Devin Townsend podcast. There was an album commentary and everything after that. But in terms of the podcast, I don't have to animate DevHead after Ghost, which is fantastic, which means that after Ghost, all of this work, all of this time that I'm spending doing this, I can now spend physically putting the project together, which is why I say the first roughly half of this Devin Townsend Superspective project is the most daunting half, the first half. While the second half, now that I don't have to spend all this time animating and putting in little keyframe pictures and whatnot, it will speed up the process significantly. So I'm hoping that I don't spend too much of 2026 working on this project. I'd like it to be done soon. Again, because of the size of this and because this is all so new to me, I'm learning so many new things. I can't give you an estimate on when this is going to be done. All I can promise is that I'm doing my best, and I'm making sure that these meet my standards, which I would like to think are pretty high and cruel to me. Cruel. I mean, look at what I'm doing here. There are ways to automate these kinds of things, and I'm not doing it because I know that any kind of AI software or like VTuber software would be a reduction in accuracy and quality compared to me manually listening to an audio clip and very scrutinizingly placing these pictures here. So yeah, I'm being very cruel to myself, but for the greater good, the greater good, including this project and what it means to me and what I would hope it can do for others. One last thing I want to show you before we talk about some stuff. So the next thing and the last thing I want to talk about here is the sections itself. I'm not going to go into extreme detail about these because this is literally the project. But this is spoilers here. This is specifically Devin Townsend Superspective Section 8 plus 8.5. So Section 8 and 8.5 are specifically the self-titled Strapping and Lad album and Accelerated Evolution. Here is the timeline. You would have seen this already if you were following my Instagram, as I would have posted a picture of this when I finished it, saying that I was moving on to the next section starting whatever day. So the big thing to take away here, look at that time. Hey, come back. Look at that time. Look up here. 33 minutes and 52 seconds. Just for this two, technically, albums. Strapping Aladdin, Accelerated Evolution obviously came out very close to the same time. They were written at the same time, so I decided to combine them into one section because story-wise it would be kind of weird to finish one side and then jump back in time to talk about it again from a different perspective. So I just kind of stuck them together, and it flows a little better this way. This is what it looks like. I'm going to scrunch up the view player just a little more. You'll see now we've got 4 audio channels, a maximum of 13 video channels, and it's just a bunch of shit stacked on each other. I'm not going to lie to you, it's just a bunch of shit stacked on each other. But here's a dev head. So specifically this dev head is being played over top of a live footage, so that's why I wanted the green screen, so that I could cut out all that green and put Devin on top of this footage here, this live performance. What is this live performance, you may be asking? I don't know. Let's zoom in here. Live in Korea 2002. So that's a thing that happened during this time. They played in Korea for the World Cup and some other places. Like I said, I'm not going to go into extreme detail here about this stuff because I don't want to spoil it for you guys. I don't want to spoil this stuff. This is like massive, for one. But one thing to note, one thing to take away here, and I will explain this in the project itself in the preface section so that everybody's on board. Let me zoom in here. There's some little numbers here in the corner. Now these numbers mean something, and we've seen these numbers in these brackets before, haven't we? The works cited work document that I talked about earlier. Anytime any kind of video or audio is playing from anything other than me, basically, those numbers there are going to exist, so anyone can go and find where I got them from. So the DevHead clip obviously is from 8 being the podcast associated with Strapping Aladdin, Accelerated Evolution, that album, but also because it's over top of a video footage, there's another number here, 295. 295 is going to link to this very live footage from YouTube that I got it from, so on and so forth. I think it's pretty easy and straightforward to understand. But basically, I just go through the entire project, and then eventually the album plays. They release the album, and I show as to not get copyrighted, or basically what I'm trying to do is avoid this whole project not being viewable in particular countries. That's what I'm worried about, is that certain countries won't be able to see it because of copyright restrictions. Very short clips of each song. In order, as you can see, the Suicide right now is the lit up one, then Traveler, Away, and then Slow Me Down. That's Accelerated Evolution. Earlier on, we have a Strapping Aladdin version. It does the same thing. They release the song, and that's that. That's how that works. And then I finish it off. So I'm gonna just back out of this now. That essentially is what I've been doing for the past 4, 5, maybe even 6 months now. I can't honestly remember. And we are now on Ziltoid. As I said at the beginning, I'm currently editing, animating the DevHead clips for Ziltoid. Now, there's a lot of DevHead clips for Ziltoid because there's not a lot of other footage from that period, because it's at that point where strapping's over. Devin is at home taking care of his kid, so the podcast is where the information is. There's some stuff, we got some pictures of him with the Ziltoid in his kitchen, but there's really not a lot of content. So unfortunately for me, Ziltoid has a lot of DevHead clips that I have to animate, and that's what I'm doing right now. There's still, I think, 4 more that I have to do for this section. One of the 4 was that audio clip that I played for you at the beginning there that I have yet to put together. And then after that, I'm physically putting the project together, going off of my script. From there on, we just keep going. Once Ziltoid is done, we go into Key and the Devin Townsend project. And then when that's done, we go into Empath. And then we just keep going until we get to as close to now as now will be when I get there, if that makes any sense. We encounter a new problem. Things are happening as I'm making this project in the dev space. So the issue that I encounter is, when do I end the project? Devin is significantly harder working than I am, and will come out with new things between now and when I finish this project. So the question is do I include them and subsequently push this project to be even longer, delay the release even further, and ultimately maybe even never finish this? I have decided that I'm going to be stopping the project. The project is going to reach its conclusion when he leaves to take a break, which he did at the end of his North American tour back in May, where I saw him in Toronto. And then everything after that is just, join the Patreon, join us. And then you can catch yourself up after watching this. You can be here having caught yourself up, because it's a dangerous game to play when you're up against Devin Townsend on a productivity scale. Guy's released over 30 albums in his career, and I've never done this before. So who wins the fight? I think it's going to be him. So I have to hard stop it at some point and decide when to quit and to bow out and to just admit that I can't keep up with him. So that's where I'm ending it. That's where that project is going to end. That's the conclusion, the big hurrah and thank you for watching and all that. That's where it's going to be. And everything after that will just be kind of like a side note, I guess, really quick. I'll probably record one last little video and then just stick it on the end there saying, hey, more stuff has happened. Go sub to his Patreon. That's what we're doing now. And join us and have some fun. And that's that. That's what I've been doing now that you have a little bit of a sneak peek. This has been an immense undertaking. It has been insane. It has taken up a significant amount of my free time. And that's not a bad thing, because this is a hobby at the end of the day. It is a passion project. I'm not being paid to do this. Obviously, I'm not being sponsored to do anything related to this. I just wanted to. And I still want to, which is crazy. There is a very, very powerful mental health story that can be associated with this project for me. And I think something like that will come later once this project is finished. I think there's going to be a lot to say for myself having created this project, just in the scale of like passion and what it means to be inspired by art and finding goodness in the world. And, I talked about it briefly about how I was in a bad state when I found Devin's music, and I feel like that really saved me. And now making this project almost as like my thank you to not only you guys as the audience, who I am a part of, this community, but the art itself and Devin as a creator. There's really something to be told there. And I'll get into it when it's time to get into it. But for now, I get to just experience the wonder of doing something that I feel like for once in my life is actually meaningful, which is it's been crazy. And I think that's why in a world that I live in where I drop a lot of my hobbies after they become boring, that after a year that this has yet to become boring. And I'm actually at a point now where I'm confident that I can see it through, so much so that I can, almost like collateral, making it public. Now you're expecting it. Now people know that I'm making it. And if I don't make it, it's disappointing and I'd be letting people down and stuff like that. Was a really big hurdle to overcome. Especially considering that everything up until that point had been abandoned in my life, that to have something that I was like, I'm not abandoning this. This is awesome. It was really shocking, but in a good way. With that, I think I've covered pretty well everything. I've been recording for probably about 40-50 minutes now, and there's a good chunk stuff that I know I need to cut out because I stumble over my words or anything like that. My hair is getting longer. My facial hair is getting longer. I'm becoming homeless as I continue to treat myself poorly as my own boss and employee doing this. Again, I do work a job outside of this, and that obviously takes precedence because money, I'm taking it one step at a time. And I'm having fun. And talking to you guys has been fantastic and really awesome to connect with people and find a sense of community on another level now, because it's not just like a group chat. It's not just like a forum page. It's like I'm talking to people and people message me specifically and they talk to me about stuff. And it's like, I feel like I'm cementing myself into something that I want to be cemented in. And it gives me purpose, to put it simply, I guess I should say. So I will sign off now. Happy holidays to you all. If I manage to edit this and get this out soon enough, I should be editing this majority tomorrow being the 23rd. Today is technically the 23rd, it's 1 a.m. Happy holidays to you. Happy New Year to you, because I probably won't be seeing you again in this format until next year. And here's to 2026, and hopefully the Devin Townsend Superspective in its entirety, available and not copyright claimed by a large music corporation like Sony. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking around. Join Devin's Patreon if you haven't already. And with that, I will see you in the future.